Let us explore cultivating awareness of the divine in all. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. How can I see God in people? How can I see the God in people and see everyone equally, no matter if it's the local floor public cleaner or the manager of something very prestigious? Let us begin with a bit of the old broad brush strokes. We can tackle this in 2 steps. What's the first step? In the Christian New Testament, in the first epistle of John, we read, God is love. This bit here is our amygdala. When we are defined by our amygdala, we not only experience anxiety and aggression, which is perfectly natural, but when we are defined by our amygdala, we are characterized. We are marionettes. We are puppets of fear and anger and terror and rage. And that ain't no way to live a life. However, when we are defined by our anterior cingulate gyrus, when we are defined by empathy and compassion and love, in addition to perceiving the full spectrum of perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings, despite that, we're defined by love. Regardless of how someone looks or sounds, if their deeds and their utterances are kind, that is divine. Not everybody's in the same place. Some people are more wise than others. Some people are in different parts of their spiritual journey. We cannot ignore where people are at, for if we ignore where people are at, how can we meet their needs? We must be vulnerable to the present moment, be it glorious or grotesque, interesting or boring, for that is how we can meet others' needs. The second is the 4 divine perceptions. In Dzogchen is called the 4 visions, but that is metaphoric. The Buddha was fond of thinking of life in terms of 4 categories: the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental. There are many different ways of looking at it. That's just a tool that he found helpful. It's basically the cornerstone of his 3 most popular meditation manuals: the Anapanasati Sutta, the Satipatthana Sutta, and the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Did I say 4 or did I say 3? I don't remember. Anyway, let's continue. These cannot be forced. What follows is a consequence, a spontaneous consequence of a very, very healthy and productive practice of mindfulness and meditation, the specifics of which we will get to in just a few minutes. When we are able to interface with the circumstantial, perceiving it visually, and yet as relaxing into its non-graspability, that is divine. When we are able to dance with the physical, perceiving it as sensual, yet relaxing into its non-graspable nature, that is divine. When we are able to interface with the personal, perceiving its resonance, literal or metaphorical, yet relaxing into its non-graspable nature, that is divine. when we are able to interface with the mental, exploring its lucidity, yet relaxing into its non-graspability. That is divine. Now, I'm going to say something that a lot of people aren't going to like, and I apologize. I don't get off on making people feel uncomfortable. But you cannot authentically believe your way there. You cannot hypnotize your way there. You cannot think your way there. You cannot imagine your way there. Our brain, there's a subtle turn of phrase that we often ignore. If the thought of someone getting a traumatic injury, at the thought of someone getting a traumatic brain injury, they sometimes say, don't crack your skull open and have your brains spill out. And they use the term plural. But in a very real sense, we don't have one brain. We have lots of little teeny brains. Each section of our brain cooperates, but is also somewhat independent. And different organelles of our brain are optimized for different functions. Just as you would not use ridiculously expensive, decadently expensive Waterford crystal to pound a finishing nail, likewise, we don't want to use the wrong tool for the wrong job. So let's explore that a little bit deeper. If we use such structures of the brain, such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, for chores such as active concentration or active analysis, in the short term, we're going to light up our amygdala, the seat of aggression and anxiety. In the long term, we're going to exhaust our prefrontal cortex and present with many of the symptoms of depression, which is tragic. But what many people fail to understand is we have many organelles in our brain. So when we set aside the idea of active concentration, we can consider mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the center third of our spinal cord. No, it has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. What then? What has it evolved to support? It has evolved to support perception, but a very special type of perception. It has evolved to support our ability to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. So this might get your attention. So we're not talking about yang or patriarchy. We're not talking about being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. No, we're talking about the opposite. Being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. We're talking literally about different parts of our brain. When we are ruled by our prefrontal cortex, we're going to tap into yang. When we are ruled by our autonomic nervous system, we're going to tap into our yin, our spiritual matriarchy. So there we are. We're perceiving. We're perceiving in a manner that is very vulnerable, and that vulnerability is typified by the nudity of Samantabhadra and Samantabhadri Karamamundara. So there we are perceiving, and we're perceiving sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also perceiving emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. This could be quite overwhelming. Fortunately, every time we exhale, we are wired to automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lower and the upper regions of our spinal cord, including the, forgive my pronunciation, the reticular activation system, or the brainstem. This bad boy is evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release during each exhalation. So let us explore this for a moment. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less permanent, could feel less graspable, could feel less defining. Now, since all complex animals on this planet evolved to think symbolically, let us explore this figuratively. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. Therefore, we must ask, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand? Perhaps this is why Kuntu Zangpo, Kuntu Zangmo, Yabium are depicted as being as translucent and as non-graspable as a rainbow. So we talked previously that when we abuse our prefrontal cortex, using it for things that it is not evolved to do, we wind up stuck lighting up our amygdala. And when I say lighting up, that's a reference to functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRIs. But when we rely upon our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, it is our anterior cingulate gyrus that lights up. This thing that looks like a catcher's mitt, this thing that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. Now, you could rightfully ask, well, if all we got to do is use our autonomic nervous system, its sympathetic and parasympathetic facets, the way they were evolved to be used, then why bother meditating? And the answer is Urkel. As a quirk of evolution, our incredibly complex brain is very clever. It has a heart of gold, but it's very clumsy. Kind of like a bull in a china shop. And without meaning to, metaphorically speaking, it often steps on its own dick. But here's the solution. Super simple. You're going to love how easy this is. If we ask our brain, our good-hearted personal Urkel, to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, our brain will sufficiently cooperate with its sympathetic nervous system to the point to facilitate perception, also known as mindfulness, the seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And when we ask our brain to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation, this big old brain is able to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system. And we're able to experience the release that is also known as meditation, the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. The seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path are like a dynamo that powers the preceding six folds. For instance, 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to loving kindness. And contrary to the ravings of patriarchy, we cannot concentrate or analyze our way to love. But we can notice and relax our way to love. This is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. Perhaps this is why all good ones in tantric union are depicted as beautiful. It's all well and good that we want to do what right by others. Ask anybody in a relationship and they will tell you, just because someone loves you doesn't mean they have a clue as how to meet your needs. Even though they want to meet your needs, even though they are enthusiastic, doesn't mean they can. And the solution is really, really fun. This gal, the color of a cumulus cloud, appears to be actively sporting in tantric union, which is symbolic of spontaneity. And let us pretend there are three flavors of spontaneity. The first is the absence of spontaneity. We might call it contrivance. And the second extreme would be scattered spontaneity, like the way you feel after downing your third espresso in 30 minutes. Woo! You're lit up, but you're pretty much worthless. You're pretty much a danger to yourself. Confident, but incompetent. The middle point between those two extremes would be the centered spontaneity, which is exemplified by this fellow, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. So here's the cool thing. This centered spontaneity, which is the key to our fulfillment, when our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from this centered spontaneity, when they flow from it with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, which is driven by the dynamo of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, by the dynamo of mindfulness and meditation, then our lives can be blissful as a real or as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, or Pure Land, or if you prefer Sanskrit, Vati. And so we talked previously about the four bases of mindfulness, and that correlates with the second, third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Kind intentions, kind communication, kind behavior, also known as nonviolence, and circumstantially, kind commerce, which is trading in competition and cruelty for cooperation and kindness. That leaves us with the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, right view, which is a fancy pants way of saying a transformative view of impermanence. And to accomplish that, we don't need a PhD. We don't need a doctor in divinity. We don't need a Geshe or a Kenpo or a Kenshin degree. In fact, according to a Buddha, we can master that in a week. It's simple. Every time we breathe in, we cannot help but notice change, whether it's subtle or whether it's jarring. We can't help but notice change in what we see and hear and feel and taste and smell and the like. We cannot help but notice changes in our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We cannot help but notice changes in everything, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. This perception of change is an involuntary fringe benefit of our regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. So whether we are accessing our own personal divinity, whether we're being a lighthouse, helping others to vibe up to love, or whether we are noticing that circumstances are appearing yet not graspable, that bodies are sensual yet non-graspable, that relationships are, metaphorically speaking, resounding yet non-graspable, that minds are lucid yet non-graspable. The key that unlocks the door to all of this is a healthy practice of mindfulness and meditation. We can start off modestly, perhaps 5 minutes every 12 hours the first week, perhaps 10 minutes every 12 hours the second week, perhaps 15 minutes every 12 hours the third week. By the conclusion of the 15th week, we can be so comfortable in sitting sustainably that we could delight in a 15-minute lesson, in a 60-minute practice, every 12 hours or so. I do look forward to practicing with you. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, because that's how YouTube works. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Taoism, Hinduism, and Buddhism, so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So, I think it could be fun if together as a team we played with the second of 55 verses comprising the spaciousness of Vajrasattva, or Dorje Sampanamka Che, composed by Prahe Vajra, or Garab Dorje, which is arguably the foundation text of Dzogchen. Or from a different point of view, the opus magus of a great Buddhist reformer. Please chant with me. Loving or essence attainment is already complete, and there is no need to strive and practice in great compassion. Loving the supreme good, there is no need either to extol the many splendid qualities of compassion. So quick like a bunny, I'm going to do a bit of the old cut and paste, or at least I'm going to attempt to. So what we're going to do is do a heap of chanting to make sense of this, and then we're going to rest the mind in awareness and release. That's the intention. That's the game plan, folks. Well, that's really weird. Let's see if I can do that again. Or perhaps try that again. Perhaps that's the more accurate phrase. Copy. Okay. And paste. All right. Please chant with me a second time. Loving our essence attainment is already complete, and there is no need to strive for practice in great compassion. Loving the supreme good, there is no need either to extol the many splendid qualities of compassion. Neither empathy, compassion, or love need be forced, for they are the natural function of our anterior cingulate gyrus, easily accessed through the regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. Let's go over here and do a bit of the old paste-a-rooney. And let's hit the magic button. So let me drag this bad boy all about Hell's Half Acre. I shall now test to make sure this appears properly on the screen. Cowabunga. And we shall do the same yet again. Let us hit copy and paste. And again. Whoopsie, that's on. Okay. Neither empathy, compassion, or love need be forced, for they are the natural affection of our interior cingulate gyrus. Now I gotta do another edit because sadly, that's how I roll. So what I'm going to do is insert a graphic I have stored on the computer for just this eventuality under the heading of neuroscience. Okay. Once again, we're going to hit wrap text because my partner showed me how to access it. It's my new favorite toy. Okay. Neither empathy, compassion, or love need be forced, for they are the natural function of our anterior cingulate gyrus. Whoopsie. The product of neither active concentration nor active analysis. Easily accessed through the regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. Now, because I am a terrible wise ass, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to once again slip it behind the text because I'm naughty that way. And now, at long last, let's shut up and meditate. So to return to the opening lesson, on one hand, we have people with varying masteries of love. On the other hand, there's the universal experience of all circumstances, everywhere, being visible yet not graspable. All bodies being sensual yet not graspable. All relationships being resounding yet not graspable. And all minds being lucid yet not graspable. Yes, even the minds of those who vote the way we wish they wouldn't. Welcome to this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. There is a myth that Dzogchen is not Buddhist, but that is just it, a myth. All the Dzogchen instructions can be tracked down not only to Mahayana Sutras, but to Theravadan Sutras, all the way down to the 7 enlightenment factors. But some people hate egalitarianism and love elitism. Forrest Gump's mom used to say, as stupid is as stupid does. And that can be applied to the spiritual path. Love is as love does. Remember, in the Christian Bible that is written in the book of James, faith without works is dead. Regardless of what spiritual path we traverse, if we are not loving, if we are not flexible, if we are not laid back, if we're not egalitarian, if we're not lucid, if we're not cooperative, if we're not kind, then, and as Bugs Bunny said to Daffy Duck, we might have they might have taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque. Remember, it's not our job to choose what to notice. It is as if meditation was a theater. You and I are not the producer, the director, the playwright, nor the thespian. We are the audience member, sitting back and enjoying the show. Enjoying whatever sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like cartwheel across the stage of our mind. Whatever emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings unfold before us. Yes, we give reality permission to sometimes be glorious, sometimes grotesque, sometimes interesting, and sometimes boring. But here's something really important. Boredom is an important barometer. It's a barometer of our dopamine. And if we have some sort of neurodivergence, such as ADHD, or I should say, if you have ADHD, like I have ADHD, then you might, when you feel boredom become burdensome, you might want to switch back to chanting and alternate between chanting and sitting. Welcome to this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Whoops, wrong button. Wrong lever. Let us bring the four bases of mindfulness into the paths of stress and loving kindness. Since we are not alone in our mental frustrations, we could also long that others' mental needs also be met. As we breathe in, we could silently and mentally recite wise. As we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite all. We're not trying to believe, we're not trying to visualize, we're just silently, mentally, and passively playing with words to guide our intention gently. Together. Since we are not alone in our interpersonal frustrations, we could also long that others' interpersonal needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our physical frustrations, we could also long that others' physical needs also be met. Since we are not alone in our circumstantial frustrations, we could also long that other circumstantial needs also be met. We're using the word boon as a one-syllable synonym for good fortune. Let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the paths of impermanence and not self. Observing the coming and going of appearing circumstantial phenomena. Help us to see, however changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. We're using the word lots as a synonym for the circumstantial. And of course, our hearts are going out to everyone on this planet involved in a genocide, whether it is in Gaza or Jordan or the Congo. We're using the verb melt as a metaphor of impermanence. Feeling the coming and going of sensual physical phenomena. Help us to feel, however changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. We're using forms as a synonym of bodies. Listening to the coming and going of resounding interpersonal phenomena. Help us to hear, however changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Feels is a synonym for our experience of the interpersonal. Noticing the coming and going of lucid mental phenomena. Help us to clearly perceive, however changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the paths of awareness and release. If you've just tuned in, allow me to remind you that as we breathe in and recite silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, we can watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. And during our exhalation, as silently, mentally, and passively we recite the one-syllable verb ease, we can relax into that exact same mind's non-graspable nature. Please chant with me. In our compassion may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. In our pragmatism may our liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. So, having sat for the better part of 75 minutes, you might find it refreshing to join me for some geriatric step-back squat thrusts. May we free all through the three jewels. 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 Well, that was invigorating. May all minds clear yet and permanent be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind. May all relationships resounding yet and permanent be as loving as a Buddha's speech. May all bodies sensual yet and permanent be as beautifully healthy as a real or imagined Deva's form. May all circumstances appearing yet impermanent be as safe and abundant as a real or imagined Devi's land. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 9.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.